You think your life is falling apart, but maybe it's finally falling into place. You've been mistaking endings for failures when in truth, they are invitations. Invitations for rebirth, for rediscovery, for remembering who you truly are beneath the noise of the world. Perhaps everything collapsing around you isn't punishment, it's preparation. A dismantling of what you were never meant to keep, so you can return home to what you were always meant to become. There comes a time in every life when the ground gives way beneath your feet. Everything you once trusted, the plans, the people, the versions of yourself you carefully built, begins to crumble. At first you panic, you reach for what's falling, you try to hold it together, but life has already decided it is no longer interested in the shell you've outgrown. The very walls you built to feel safe are being dismantled piece by piece, not to punish you but to free you. You see, there are moments when life must break you open, not to destroy you, but to release what you've been hiding from yourself. The illusion of control, the fear of loss, the weight of identities you were never meant to carry. And in that breaking, something sacred happens. The pain that once felt unbearable becomes the teacher that will never leave you. The tears that sting your face cleanse the fog from your vision. Suddenly, you realize that what you called the end was really the beginning, only it had to arrive disguised as chaos to get your attention. Life has an odd way of doing that. It removes what you cling to, so that you can finally touch what's real. It lets the masks slip from your face, so you can meet the soul that's been waiting behind it all along. You see, transformation doesn't come when you're ready. It comes when you're desperate enough to stop pretending. The universe, with its infinite intelligence, doesn't wait for your permission. It waits for your surrender. It waits for that moment when your pride grows tired of pretending it has all the answers. When the noise of the world becomes too loud to bear. When the version of you that has been performing, pleasing, proving, and pretending finally collapses beneath the weight of exhaustion. That's when the real work begins. There's a breaking that doesn't end in defeat. It ends in birth. It's that moment when the seed cracks open in the dark earth. From the outside, it looks like destruction. But within, something holy is awakening. The breaking is the passage. The pain is the labor. The confusion, the silence, the sleepless nights. They are not signs that you are lost. They are signs that life is mid-creation, sculpting you through fire and shadow into someone new. At first, you resist. Of course you do. Every part of your being that was built around control will scream to hold on. You'll try to rebuild what you lost, to fix what was never broken, to restore the familiar even when it was suffocating you. But the deeper truth whispers beneath all that noise. One cannot be reborn while clinging to what must die. And the hands that are meant to open to your future cannot do so if they're still grasping the remnants of your past. So the breaking continues, not out of cruelty, but out of mercy. Life will strip you of everything that keeps you from remembering yourself. The job that defined you, the relationship that numbed you, the comfort that dulled your calling, piece by piece, illusion by illusion. Life dismantles the scaffolding around your soul so that you can finally stand bare, unmasked, and alive. There is a sacred moment that arrives when you stop asking why me and start whispering, maybe this too is sacred. That's when the storm begins to shift, because the real transformation isn't about rebuilding your life, it's about realigning your being. You were never meant to go back to who you were before it all fell apart. That version of you was merely the container. What's rising now is the essence. And yet, the journey doesn't begin with fire, it begins with surrender. Before rebirth comes the quiet death of what once was. There's a silence that follows the storm. And in that silence, something inside you exhales for the first time in years. You no longer need to prove your worth or force outcomes. You start to see that life was never against you. It was always for you. even in its most painful disguises. This is the death before the rebirth, the moment when everything you thought you were, your identity, your expectations, your carefully crafted image, dissolves like smoke in the wind. It's terrifying, yes, but it's also liberating, because in that space between endings and beginnings, you meet the truest part of yourself, the part that exists without titles, without approval, without any reason to perform. Surrender is not giving up, it is giving in. It's the gentle nod to the greater rhythm moving beneath the surface of your plans. It's the quiet recognition that you are not in control of the tide, but you can learn to float. The old self resists because it believes that if it doesn't fight, it will die. And it's right. That's exactly what must happen. The false self, the fearful self, the one that measures worth through comparison and seeks safety in certainty. Its time has come to an end, and as it dies, you begin to see the wisdom in loss. The very things you thought were tearing you apart are the same things making room for your soul to expand. You start to trust that the collapse was never chaos, it was choreography. That every disappointment, every rejection, every delay was not random, but intentional. The universe was not dismantling your life, it was editing your story so that the truth could finally be told. It's a painful paradox. Before you can rise, you must first dissolve. Before you can run, you must first stand still. The caterpillar doesn't fight the cocoon, it surrenders to it, allowing every part of its old self to disintegrate so something new can take form. You too must allow yourself to enter that sacred stillness, the space where your old identity melts into silence. This is where your power hides, not in striving, not in noise, but in surrender. At first, the stillness feels unbearable. You've been conditioned to equate stillness with stagnation, silence with emptiness. The world praises motion and noise. It tells you that you must constantly I do to prove that you are becoming, but real becoming happens in the pause. It's in the spaces where nothing seems to be happening that everything is quietly transforming. This is the stillness that feels like emptiness, the quiet in which your old world disappears, but the new one hasn't yet emerged. It's uncomfortable because the mind craves certainty, but the soul thrives in mystery. This silence is not punishment, it is preparation. You are being emptied so that you can be filled again, but this time with purpose instead of pressure, with peace instead of panic. In the stillness, you begin to hear yourself again. You start noticing the subtle voice that's been buried beneath the noise of expectation. It speaks softly but with authority, reminding you that you were never lost, only layered beneath the opinions of others, beneath the weight of what you thought you had to be. The silence becomes sacred because it reconnects you to your truth. You stop running from yourself and start returning home. There's a strange kind of grace that lives in this quiet. When the noise fades, you begin to see how much of your life was driven by fear, the fear of being unseen, unloved, or forgotten. But here, in the stillness, you learn that you are seen by the universe itself, that love does not leave, and that what's meant for you could never forget your name. You are not in a void, you are in incubation. Just as the soil holds the seed before it breaks through the ground, the universe is holding you now. You are being nurtured in unseen ways. The silence is your cocoon, the divine pause before flight. This emptiness is not evidence that you've been abandoned. It's proof that you're being reshaped. The more you resist it, the longer it will last. But the moment you soften into it, the moment you let yourself be still, peace begins to whisper again. And slowly you realize that the comeback doesn't begin with a roar. It begins with a whisper, with a gentle exhale, with the courage to stop running from the present moment. What you thought was your breaking point was your turning point. What you called emptiness was actually space being made for new life to unfold. The stillness is not empty. It's full of becoming. It's the invisible womb of transformation. Everything you prayed for, everything you long to become, is being woven into existence beneath the quiet surface of your waiting. You just can't see it yet. And that's the point. Because true faith is not believing when you see, it's trusting when you don't. It's knowing that the dark cocoon is as divine as the wings that will one day emerge from it. It's realizing that the silence that once scared you is now the sanctuary that saves you. So don't rush this part of your story. Don't despise the quiet. Don't curse the waiting. This is the sacred soil of your rebirth. Let yourself rest here. Let the silence do its work. Because when the time comes, when the universe decides you're ready, you won't need to fight your way back. You'll rise naturally, effortlessly, gracefully, like the dawn that follows the longest night. And when you do, you'll understand nothing was wasted. Not the pain, not the confusion, not the silence. Every moment was molding you into the vessel you were destined to become. You were never being punished. You were being prepared. And this stillness, this surrender, this breaking open is the quiet beginning of the biggest comeback of your life. Healing is the quietest revolution you'll ever live through. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare or victory songs. It begins in the shadows, where no one claps for you. It begins in the silence between sobs, in the moments when you're too tired to pretend that you're okay. Healing isn't glamorous. It's sacred work done in the unseen corners of your being. It's what happens when you stop trying to be strong for everyone else and finally allow yourself to fall apart in peace. Most people think healing is about moving on, about forgetting, about replacing pain with positivity. But that's not healing, that's escaping. True healing is not a straight road. It's a spiral that keeps bringing you back to the same wounds, but each time with a little more understanding, a little more compassion, a little more courage to stay present with what hurts. Healing demands that you sit with your shadows, not to punish yourself, but to understand them. Because every wound carries a story, and every story wants to be heard before it can be released. There's a quiet labor happening beneath your awareness right now. While the world sees nothing changing, your spirit is rearranging its architecture. You are dismantling beliefs that were never truly yours. You are breaking cycles passed down through generations of silence. You are learning to hold yourself with the same tenderness you once begged others to give you. This invisible work is what builds the foundation of your rebirth. The tears that fall when no one is watching, they are the baptism of your becoming. Healing isn't about pretending the wound never happened. It's about learning that you are not the wound. It's about walking with your scars without letting them define your worth. It's about understanding that pain didn't come to destroy you. It came to reveal the parts of you that needed love the most. Every night you cried yourself to sleep. Every day you forced yourself to keep going. Those were the sacred steps of your transformation. And yet, it's strange, isn't it? How healing often begins with loss. The loss of people, of dreams, of versions of yourself that once made you feel safe. When you lose everything familiar, you feel as though you're standing in an empty field after the fire. But look closely. Beneath the ashes, life is already stirring. New roots are forming. What was destroyed was only what could no longer hold your truth. The fire didn't come to burn you. It came to burn away what wasn't you. Sometimes, the greatest mercy life gives you is the removal of what you thought you couldn't live without. It takes away the things that were secretly killing you, the habits, the attachments, the false comforts. And though it feels cruel in the moment, it's really grace disguised as loss. Because what you lose in one season is often the very thing that clears the space for who you're becoming in the next. The absence that aches now will one day reveal itself as divine alignment. You may not see it yet, but what left you created room for what's real. The people who walked away carried away the weight you no longer needed. The job that ended made space for your soul's purpose to breathe. The plans that fell apart rerouted you towards something that fits your spirit instead of your ego. You thought you were being buried, but you were being planted. Rock bottom, that place you feared the most, becomes sacred ground when you finally understand its purpose. It's the place where your illusions shatter and your authenticity is born. When there's nothing left to lose, you stop pretending. You stop chasing after validation, approval, and belonging in places that never truly saw you. You learn to stand still and listen to your breath, your heart, your intuition, and in that stillness, you find that you were never broken. You were simply being stripped back to your essence. It's strange how hitting bottom has a way of turning everything quiet. The noise of expectations fades, and what remains is truth. It doesn't speak loudly, it whispers. It says, now that you have nothing, what do you truly want? Who are you without the masks, without the titles, without the applause? It's there, in that silence, that the deepest transformation begins. Because when life removes the ground beneath you, it's teaching you to trust the wings you forgot you had. Rock bottom humbles you, but it also liberates you. It removes the illusion that you are ever in control. It reveals how fragile, yet how resilient the human spirit truly is. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of your circumstances and start recognizing yourself as a participant in your evolution. The pain becomes a portal, and the suffering becomes sacred soil. You stop asking life to be easy and start asking to be aligned. And slowly you begin to see the hidden beauty in the breaking. You start noticing that strength isn't something you acquire. It's something that's revealed when everything else falls away. You no longer need to fight for your place in the world because you finally understand your existence is your proof of worthiness. You were never meant to chase acceptance. You were meant to embody truth. When you reach this depth of surrender, something shifts. The very energy that once crushed you begins to carry you. You realize that every time you thought you were buried, life was actually planting a deeper root of wisdom inside you. The deeper the fall, the stronger the rise. The more profound the loss, the greater the clarity. There's a grace that finds you at rock bottom, a grace that doesn't shout or demand. It simply holds you. It teaches you to trust life again, not because it's predictable, but because it's purposeful. You begin to see that the same hands that took away are now the same hands guiding you toward restoration. When the soil is dark and the light seems far, remember, everything sacred grows in the dark. Seeds don't sprout in the light. They sprout beneath the surface, in stillness, in obscurity, in faith. You are no different. Your greatest growth will not happen in your moments of applause, but in your seasons of anonymity. When the world goes quiet, your soul learns its own rhythm again. And maybe, just maybe, what you thought was your ending was the most compassionate beginning life could have written for you. Because when the fire comes, it burns away what's false, but it also forges what's real. You stop living from reaction and start living from reflection. You no longer need to control the outcome because you trust the process. You realize that what's meant for you doesn't rush. It arrives when you are ready to receive it. So when you find yourself in that in-between space where the old has fallen and the new hasn't yet appeared, be gentle with yourself. The silence that surrounds you isn't a void, it's a womb. The pain you feel isn't punishment, it's purification. The emptiness that echoes through your heart isn't loneliness, it's space being made for your higher self to emerge. And one day, when the storm has passed, when the ashes settle and the light begins to seep through the cracks, you will look back and understand. The healing, the loss, the breaking, they were never separate events. They were a single, sacred unfolding. The path you thought was leading you into ruin was actually guiding you home to yourself. You were never falling apart, you were falling into alignment. The collapse was the cleansing. The silence was the song. The bottom was the beginning. And in that quiet, patient, unseen space, you were being rewritten, not by force but by grace. So let it all happen. Let the healing take its time. Let the losses teach their lessons. Let the rock bottom become your sacred ground. Because the comeback you're waiting for doesn't begin in triumph. It begins here, in the softness of your surrender, in the gentleness of your acceptance, in the faith that even in the dark, something within you is still growing, still glowing, still becoming. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are in the sacred in-between, the place where miracles are born, where the soil of suffering becomes the garden of your rebirth. And though you may not see it now, one day you will rise, quietly but completely, and realize the darkness didn't destroy you. It revealed you, it brought you home. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when everything grows quiet, not because life has stopped, but because something within you has begun to awaken. The noise that once fueled your sense of direction fades into a distant hum, and you find yourself standing in the stillness of becoming. It's not dramatic. It's not visible to anyone else. But inside, a transformation is unfolding that words can't capture. This silence feels strange at first. It feels like being forgotten by the world, like your name has been erased from the noise of living. You look around and realize that the people you once depended on have drifted away. The ambitions that used to drive you no longer move you. Even the things that once made you feel alive suddenly lose their meaning. What you're experiencing is not emptiness, it's refinement. The stillness is not punishment, it's protection. Life is taking you into the cocoon of transformation, where everything old dissolves and everything essential begins to take shape. You see, the butterfly doesn't announce its metamorphosis. It disappears. It goes into the darkness and allows itself to be undone. The old body liquefies, the old self dissolves, and what remains is essence waiting to take form. You too are being undone, quietly and completely, so that something greater can emerge. You are learning that stillness is not a lack of progress. It's the sacred space where your spirit recalibrates to a higher rhythm. The silence you fear is the womb of your awakening. There's a wisdom that can only be learned when life forces you to slow down. In that quiet, you start to notice the small things again. The sound of your own breath, the way sunlight touches your skin, the pulse of life in moments you used to overlook. You begin to feel yourself as part of something much larger than the rush and chaos of the world. This is not the absence of motion, it's the presence of awareness. The deeper you go into that stillness, the more you realize that becoming is not about addition. It's about subtraction. It's about peeling away the noise, the expectations, the false layers, until what's left is pure and unshakable. When you surrender to this quiet becoming, you stop trying to force life to move faster. You stop demanding answers from the unknown. You realize that what is meant to unfold cannot be hurried, and what is not meant to stay cannot be held. The stillness becomes your teacher. It teaches you to listen to life instead of fighting it, to trust the pauses as much as the progress. To understand that silence is not a void, it's a message. And in that silence, something remarkable happens. You discover a kind of strength that has nothing to do with resistance. It's the strength of softness, the power of gentleness. You begin to understand that real power is not found in domination, but in grace. It's not the force that moves mountains, but the water that shapes them over time. The world teaches you to be hard, to armor yourself, to build walls, to hide your tenderness so you won't get hurt again. But there comes a time when you realize that true strength isn't about how tightly you can hold on, but how freely you can let go. The softness you once saw as weakness becomes the very energy that heals you. The ability to stay open, even after pain, to remain kind, even after betrayal. That's the kind of power that changes everything. Softness doesn't mean submission. It means alignment. It means knowing that you no longer need to fight to prove your worth. It means trusting that peace is not passive, it's magnetic. The strongest beings are not the ones who shout the loudest, but the ones who can stand in silence and still radiate presence. To be soft in a world that taught you hardness is an act of rebellion. It is choosing love in the face of fear. It is choosing peace in a world addicted to noise. As you embody this softness, something in you begins to heal that no one else could reach. The armor you wore for so long starts to fall away. The defenses you built from pain begin to dissolve. You realize that vulnerability is not exposure, it's authenticity. To show your truth without apology, to speak your heart without expectation, to be real even when it risks misunderstanding. That is the highest form of courage. And with that courage comes connection. The kind that's pure, not performative. When you're no longer pretending to be what the world wants, you create space for others to meet you as you truly are. But here's the paradox. Not everyone will stay. In fact, the softer you become, the more sensitive your soul becomes to the energy around you. You start feeling who's genuine and who's just comfortable in your presence. You sense when conversations drain you, when rooms dim your light, when relationships shrink your spirit. And suddenly, solitude no longer feels like punishment. It feels like freedom. Loneliness once frightened you because it felt like emptiness. But now, it becomes your sanctuary. You start realizing that solitude is not about isolation. It's about integration. It's where you remember your own rhythm after dancing to everyone else's tune. It's where your energy reclaims itself from the fragments scattered in other people's opinions. In solitude, your inner world begins to bloom again. When you finally sit with yourself long enough, you begin to understand that peace is not something you find. It's something you uncover. It was always within you, beneath the noise, beneath the striving, beneath the need to belong. The world tells you that you must do more to become whole. But solitude teaches you that wholeness was your natural state all along. You begin to fall in love with your own company. You find beauty in small rituals, making tea slowly, writing without purpose, walking without destination. These moments that once felt meaningless become sacred. They are the proof that you have returned to yourself. In that returning, you no longer crave constant validation. You no longer chase the people who can't see you. You realize that your worth was never meant to be negotiated. It simply is. And as that realization deepens, loneliness turns into sacred companionship. You stop fearing the quiet because you recognize it as the voice of your own soul. The solitude that once felt heavy now feels holy. You see that being alone is not a deficiency, it's a divine dialogue. It's in that dialogue that you start to receive guidance, clarity, and peace that no crowd could ever offer you. In this space, life begins to flow again. Slowly at first, like a stream thawing after winter. You no longer rush to fill the silence. You no longer mistake stillness for stagnation or gentleness for weakness. You begin to live in rhythm with life instead of racing against it. Every breath feels intentional. Every moment infused with quiet gratitude. You start to see how your journey through silence, softness, and solitude has transformed you. You no longer seek to control what happens. You simply participate. You move through the world with a quiet confidence, knowing that your peace is your power. You are no longer driven by the need to prove yourself. You are guided by the desire to be yourself. And that's when life begins to mirror you back. The peace within you attracts peace around you. The softness within you draws in tenderness. The stillness within you magnetizes clarity. You become a reflection of everything you once sought outside yourself. The silence that once terrified you now feels like home. The softness that once made you doubt your strength now makes you unshakable. The solitude that once made you feel unseen now makes you deeply connected to life, to truth, to everything that truly matters. You realize now that this was never about becoming someone new. It was about remembering what was always there beneath the noise. The calm, the compassion, the clarity. You were never lost, only layered. And as each layer falls away, what remains is essence, quiet, radiant, and free. So if you find yourself in the stillness, don't rush to escape it. If life feels quiet, don't mistake it for emptiness. The silence is sacred. The softness is strength. The solitude is restoration. This is where your soul exhales after years of holding its breath. This is where you come home, not to a place, but to yourself. And from that home, everything begins again. Only this time, you don't chase, you attract, you don't strive, you flow, you don't seek to be seen, you simply shine. You've learned that stillness was never the absence of life. It was life in its purest form, gentle, deliberate, divinely timed. And within that rhythm you find the truest freedom of all, the freedom to simply be. There comes a season in every life when the noise around you becomes too loud to hear your own truth. You find yourself standing between who you once were and who you are becoming, unable to go back, yet uncertain how to move forward. But within that uncertainty lies something sacred. The stillness between what was and what will be is not emptiness, it is divine preparation. It is life silently rebuilding you for a greater chapter, even when it feels like everything is falling apart. Sometimes life strips away what you once depended on, not because you failed, but because you've outgrown it. The friendships, the habits, the versions of yourself that once felt comfortable, they begin to dissolve like mist under sunlight. And though your mind tries to cling to them, your spirit knows that change is not punishment, it's evolution. You see, every ending is a disguised invitation, a whisper from life saying you're ready for more. But more doesn't always arrive in comfort. Often, it arrives through chaos, through the uncomfortable unraveling of the familiar. There's a quiet kind of courage that emerges when everything you used to count on begins to shift. At first, it feels like loss, the ache of watching parts of yourself disappear. But slowly, if you dare to remain open, you begin to see the wisdom in the dismantling. You begin to understand that destruction and creation are two faces of the same force. To make space for what's meant for you, life must clear what's no longer aligned. The very storms that seemed sent to break you were, in truth, sent to cleanse you. It is in those moments of surrender, when you finally stop fighting what's changing, that you discover a deeper rhythm at work, a divine order beneath the chaos. The pain you once cursed begins to feel like a teacher, patient and unrelenting. It shows you where you've been living small, where you've been avoiding growth, where your trust was misplaced, and when you can finally say, I see now why that had to end, and something shifts within you. The grief doesn't vanish, but it transforms into gratitude. The ashes of what you've lost become the soil for what's to come. You begin to notice subtle signs that your spirit is awakening again, not through loud miracles, but through whispers of peace where panic once lived. You wake up one morning and realize you are no longer begging for what doesn't serve you. You are no longer explaining your worth to people who cannot see it. You are no longer afraid of being misunderstood, because you have finally understood yourself. That is the essence of the comeback. It's not about returning to who you were. It's about rising into who you truly are. And so this stage of your journey becomes less about chasing and more about allowing, less about proving and more about trusting. You stop rushing toward the next destination because you finally realize that everything you need to become is already unfolding within you. Life has not forgotten you. It has simply been sculpting you in silence. Every delay, every detour, every heartbreak, it was never wasted. It was all part of a divine architecture, building a foundation strong enough to hold your next level. When you begin to see your pain as preparation, your entire perception shifts. You stop resenting the seasons of solitude and start revering them. You start to understand why you were isolated, not as punishment, but as refinement. Isolation is where truth speaks the loudest. It's where illusions fall away and you're left with the unfiltered version of your soul. It's uncomfortable, yes, to sit with yourself without distraction, to feel every ache, every regret, every longing, But it's in that silence that something sacred happens. You meet the part of yourself that has never been broken. The world teaches you to fear the fall. But the fall is how you find depth. It's how you learn that the ground beneath you was never meant to hold you forever. It was meant to teach you how to stand on your own. And once you do, once you rise from the fall, you carry a power that can't be taken away. A softness too, because pain, when integrated, doesn't harden you. It refines you. It teaches you compassion, patience, humility. It teaches you to see others not from the surface but from the soul. As you continue walking through this season, you'll notice how your definition of strength changes. You used to think strength was about endurance, holding everything together, never breaking, never showing weakness. But now you see, real strength is surrender. It's the ability to release control and trust that life knows what it's doing, even when you don't. Strength is the quiet confidence that no matter what happens, you will meet it with presence, not panic. You will no longer fight the current. You'll learn to flow with it. This is the sacred art of alignment, where effort meets ease and resistance gives way to grace. You begin to live differently. You stop begging for doors to open that were never yours to walk through. You stop chasing after people who left, realizing their departure was a blessing disguised as heartbreak. You stop clinging to timelines, understanding that divine timing is never late, only precise. You find peace not because everything makes sense, but because you trust that it will, one day. And somewhere along the way you'll realize that the comeback was never about regaining what was lost. It was about discovering what could never be taken from you. Your spirit, your faith, your capacity to love, your ability to begin again. That's the beauty of a soul reborn. It no longer seeks validation. It radiates truth. It no longer fears endings because it has lived through enough of them to know every ending is just the beginning in disguise. So if you find yourself standing in the ruins right now, wondering if you'll ever rise again, remember this: even in the darkness, seeds are growing. The ground may feel cold and unforgiving, but underneath, something powerful is taking root. The same force that breaks you open is the same force that builds you anew. Don't rush the process. Don't curse the waiting. The bloom takes time, but it always comes. You are being stretched, not to break, but to expand, to make room for the version of yourself that's been waiting behind the walls of fear, behind the weight of the past. You are being taught to walk, not by sight, but by trust, to follow the inner pull of something greater, something eternal. And when the time comes, when the light returns, you will not simply rise, you will emerge radiant, wise, and unshakably grounded in who you are, because the greatest comeback of your life isn't about proving anyone wrong. It's about proving to yourself that even after the storm, even after the loss, even after you thought it was over, your spirit still remembers how to dance in the rain. You still remember how to love after heartbreak, how to believe after disappointment, how to hope after silence. That is the miracle. That is the masterpiece being written through you. The comeback isn't an event. It's a becoming. It's the slow, sacred unfurling of your truest self. The one that was hidden beneath years of pretending, performing, surviving, and now, as the old chapters close and the new ones begin, you will see that nothing was wasted. Every wound, every waiting season, every tear, all of it was preparing you to stand here exactly as you are, open, awake, and ready for the light that's finally finding its way back to you. There comes a moment when you realize that what you thought was breaking you was actually birthing you. What you called endings were really invitations, not to go back, not to escape, but to go deeper. You see, life doesn't destroy to punish. It destroys to awaken. It tears down everything false so that the real you can finally stand unshaken. When you stop resisting what life is reshaping, something profound begins to happen. You start to feel an unfamiliar calm, a kind of peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. You stop asking, so why is this happening to me? And begin to whisper, so what is this teaching me? The difference between despair and transformation is perception. When you stop seeing pain as an interruption and start seeing it as instruction, you begin to awaken the part of you that's meant to lead your next chapter. At first, the lessons come quietly, through whispers in your spirit, through moments of stillness that make you uncomfortable. The silence that once frightened you now becomes sacred, because in silence, truth speaks. It tells you that you are not behind, you are not forgotten, you are not failing. You are simply being rearranged. The pieces of your life that no longer align are being shifted, not to leave you empty, but to make space for what your soul truly deserves. You begin to see how every heartbreak was a mirror, every disappointment a message, every delay a divine pause meant to realign your pace with your purpose. You understand now that your pain was never random. It was carefully woven into your becoming. Every tear you cried was watering the roots of wisdom growing within you. Every closed door was protecting your peace before you even knew how to ask for it. Every betrayal was redirecting your loyalty back to yourself. And there's a holy beauty in that, in realizing that even the worst chapters were sacred, because they taught you what peace feels like by first showing you chaos. They taught you what real love feels like by first letting you experience what it isn't. They taught you how to trust life again, not because it always feels fair, but because it always leads you where you need to go. If you're willing to walk with open hands instead of clenched fists, slowly you start to forgive life for not going according to your plans. You start to forgive yourself for not knowing better before you learned. You start to forgive others, not because they deserve peace, but because you do. Forgiveness becomes the quiet bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. It's not about pretending that the hurt never happened. It's about refusing to let it control your future. You stop replaying the pain and start reclaiming the lesson. You stop trying to fix the past and start using it as wisdom for your rebirth. And as this forgiveness deepens, so does your clarity. You begin to see how much energy you once wasted trying to control what was never meant to stay. You realize that holding on was never strength. It was fear disguised as loyalty. Real strength is release, the courage to let go before the answers arrive. It's trusting that what leaves is clearing space for what's aligned, that what ends isn't a loss, but a shift in divine timing, that even when you don't understand the why, your spirit already knows the where next. In this awareness, your relationship with time changes. You no longer chase after things or people as if you're running out of time. You begin to move slower, not because you're tired, but because you're finally intentional. You stop measuring your worth by milestones and start feeling it through alignment. You begin to recognize that your journey is not linear, it's cyclical. Every pause, every setback, every detour, it's part of your unfolding. The delay is not denial, it's divine choreography. And there's something beautiful about realizing that you are not late. You're being ripened. Life doesn't rush masterpieces. It refines them in silence, polishes them in darkness, and only reveals them when they are ready to shine without breaking. That's you, being prepared piece by piece to stand in your light without fear. You're not waiting for life to begin again. Life is waiting for you to trust what's already becoming within you. The deeper you go, the more you learn that peace isn't found in what you acquire, but in what you release. It's not about having more. It's about needing less. It's about understanding that the things that are meant for you will never require you to shrink. They will not demand that you betray your truth. They will not drain your spirit. What's meant for you will feel like rest, not resistance, like recognition, not confusion, like home, not chaos. When you reach that point of awareness, you begin to live differently. You stop trying to be understood and start focusing on understanding yourself. You stop chasing attention and start cultivating presence. You stop performing strength and start embodying it. You walk differently, not faster but with purpose. You speak differently, not louder but with truth. You love differently, not from fear, but from overflow. That's when the world starts to shift around you. Because when your inner world changes, the outer world follows. The same situations that once triggered you lose their power. The same people that once drained you begin to fall away naturally, not out of anger, but out of energetic completion. You no longer fight for closure. You realize you can create it within yourself. You no longer need validation. You are anchored in your own knowing. And yet, even in this newfound peace, life will continue to test you, not to break you, but to see if you've learned to stand firm in your truth. Old patterns may return, but this time you respond differently. This time, you pause instead of react. You observe instead of absorb. You understand that repeating cycles are not punishments, they're opportunities to choose differently, to act from awareness rather than habit, to demonstrate that the lesson has truly integrated into your being. This is where real transformation takes root. When wisdom stops being something you speak and starts being something you live. When peace stops being a pursuit and becomes your default state. When love stops being something you chase and becomes something you radiate. You begin to see that everything you once prayed for was never about changing your circumstances. It was about awakening your consciousness. And so you return to life with a new kind of power. Quiet, grounded, unshakable. Not the power to control everything, but the power to remain centered no matter what happens. You understand now that the greatest victory is not in conquering the world, but in mastering yourself, in finding stillness amid chaos, clarity amid confusion, and love amid loss. You begin to see that your comeback is not a single event, but a continuous evolution. It's not a dramatic moment of triumph, but a gentle unfolding of truth. It happens every time you choose peace over reaction, faith over fear, and alignment over approval. It happens every time you honor your growth instead of chasing perfection. It happens every time you trust the process, even when the path disappears beneath your feet. And when you look back, you'll see that what you thought was a detour was actually the direct route to your awakening. The closed doors, the heartbreaks, the long nights of doubt, they were all part of the initiation. They were all preparing you to carry the light you now hold. Because without the darkness, you wouldn't have learned how to see. This is the essence of your rebirth. Not a return to what was, but a rising into what's always been waiting inside you. The power, the peace, the divine resilience. You were never meant to merely survive the storm. You are meant to remember who you are within it. You are meant to see that even as life shifts and seasons change, your essence, your truth remains untouched. So breathe. You've come so far, even if you can't see the full picture yet. You are not lost, you are being refined, you are not falling apart, you are shedding what no longer serves your becoming. You are not waiting for the light, you are realizing that I are the light. And the moment you accept that, fully, deeply, unapologetically, the comeback you've been waiting for will not just happen, it will unfold through you. There comes a moment when life no longer whispers, but calls. A moment when you feel something shifting beneath the surface. Something sacred, something ancient within you that refuses to keep living small. You can sense it, can't you? The quiet pull towards something deeper. It's not loud or dramatic. It's subtle, like the slow turning of the earth. But it's there. And knowing that the person you once were can no longer hold the magnitude of who you are becoming. This isn't the kind of change you can plan or predict. It's not born from logic or timing, but from destiny. It begins in the silence, when the noise fades and you start to hear your own soul again. That's when the awakening starts. Not when life gets easier, but when you finally stop running from what it's been trying to show you all along. You realize that every challenge, every heartbreak, every ending was a message. Not to break you, but to break open the walls you built around your light. The awakening feels uncomfortable at first. You start to see through illusions, the false identities, the roles you played to be loved, the masks you wore to be accepted. It can be painful to watch them fall away, especially when you've carried them for so long. But then, in that space of rawness, you meet your truth, unfiltered, untamed, and holy. You realize that the self you thought you had to create was never real. You were never meant to become worthy. You were just remembering. The process of remembering who you are isn't glamorous. It's tender. It's sacred. It's a quiet return, a return to simplicity, to honesty, to alignment. You begin to notice how much of your energy once went into pretending to be fine, pretending to be strong, pretending you didn't care. And slowly, you begin to see that true strength isn't about pretending at all. It's about presence. It's about allowing yourself to feel everything, the fear, the doubt, the joy, the love, without closing your heart. When you start living from that place, something remarkable happens. Life stops feeling like a battle and begins to feel like a dance. You no longer force, you flow. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer fear the unknown. You walk into it with reverence. Because you've learned that the unknown isn't your enemy. It's the birthplace of every new beginning. It's where miracles dwell, waiting for your surrender. And yet, the path of awakening doesn't end with understanding. It deepens into embodiment. There comes a point when you must live the wisdom you've gathered. You must bring it into your breath, your words, your actions. You must walk your truth even when it costs you comfort. You must honor your peace even when others don't understand it. That is where your transformation solidifies. Not in knowing who you are, but in choosing to live as her every single day. Sometimes this embodiment looks like solitude, pulling away from noise to hear your intuition clearly. Sometimes it looks like forgiveness, releasing people, not to excuse them, but to free yourself. Sometimes it looks like discipline, not to punish yourself, but to protect your energy. Each act becomes sacred when it's done in alignment with who you truly are. You begin to live intentionally, not reactively. You begin to move from purpose, not pain. You start to see that peace isn't found in external perfection. It's found in inner permission. The permission to rest when you need to speak your truth even when your voice trembles, to walk away from what doesn't nurture your spirits. Peace is not something you chase. It's something you allow. And the moment you stop fighting to be seen and start seeing yourself clearly, that's when peace enters like a breath after a long storm. In this state of awareness, you realize that life doesn't demand perfection. It asks for presence. It doesn't expect you to never fall again. It only asks that you rise with understanding, that you stop measuring your worth by success and start measuring it by authenticity. You learn to celebrate progress over perfection, truth over approval, becoming over belonging, because once you've touched truth, there is no going back. The things that used to satisfy you begin to lose flavor. You crave depth, you crave alignment, you crave stillness that feels like home. And then something incredible happens. You begin to attract experiences that mirror your new vibration. The more you honor your truth, the more truth surrounds you. The more peace you cultivate, the more peaceful your reality becomes. You are no longer chasing light. You are the light. You draw towards you what you've become. You start to understand that manifestation is not about demanding what you want. It's about embodying what you are. But even as you rise, even as you expand, the universe will continue to refine you. There will still be moments that test your balance, not because you are failing, but because you are evolving. The tests will come to ensure that your growth is real. You'll be asked to love again after being hurt, to trust again after being disappointed, to hope again after being disillusioned. And each time you choose openness over fear, you deepen your mastery. You become not just a survivor of pain, but an alchemist of it. Someone who turns every wound into wisdom, every ending into beginning, every breakdown into awakening. You learn that healing isn't about erasing the past. It's about reclaiming your power from it. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start realizing, it happened for me. It happened to reveal your strength, to activate your compassion, to remind you that even in darkness, your light remains. You start to see yourself as whole, not despite your scars, but because of them, because each scar is a testament that you didn't just endure, you transformed. There comes a day when you look at your reflection and recognize yourself again, not the version molded by expectations, but the one sculpted by truth. You see softness where there was once defense, stillness where there was once chaos, wisdom where there was once confusion. You no longer seek validation because you've become your own witness. You no longer chase belonging because you've realized you ayada. The belonging, from that place, love flows differently. It's no longer about filling a void, but about sharing overflow. You love without attachment, without fear of loss, without the need to control the outcome. You love because it is your nature. Because the more love you give, the more you remember who you are. Love becomes your default frequency. And suddenly, everything that's meant for you starts aligning effortlessly. Not because you're striving for it, but because you've become available to receive it. You realize that receiving is an act of surrender, not effort. It's about trusting that you're already enough, that life knows your heart's desires, that you don't have to beg for what's destined for you. You only need to stay open, grateful, grounded. And as you do, blessings begin to arrive quietly. Not always as you imagine, but always as you need. Sometimes they arrive as people, sometimes as peace, sometimes as purpose, but they always arrive on time. As you step into this higher awareness, the world around you feels different. Not because it's changed, but because in you have the same challenges that once triggered you now teach you. The same silence that once scared you now nourishes you. The same waiting that once frustrated you now refines you. You begin to understand that life doesn't happen in opposition to you. It happens through you. You are not separate from it. You are part of its divine unfolding. This realization humbles you. It makes you softer, more present, more compassionate. You stop needing to fix everything and start trusting the timing of everything. You begin to see that your role is not to control the river, but to flow with it, to trust its bends and currents, to let it carry you where you're meant to be. You no longer resist endings, you bless them. You no longer fear beginnings, you welcome them. You no longer try to make sense of every season. You let each season make sense of you. And that is when you understand what it means to live in harmony, not as someone who avoids pain, but as someone who finds meaning within it. You stop fighting life and start dancing with it. You stop seeking certainty and start embodying faith. You stop asking when your comeback will happen and realize that you are the comeback, that every breath, every choice, every act of faith is a resurrection. The journey no longer feels like a climb. It feels like a return to your essence, your light, your divine wholeness. You begin to see that you are never broken, never forgotten, never behind. You are always on the way home to yourself. Every detour was grace in disguise. Every delay was divine redirection. Every loss was a sacred clearing for something greater to arrive. And now, as you stand in this quiet power, you understand the secret that life has been whispering all along. The greatest comeback of your life is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the illusion. You are not waiting for light, you are remembering that you are made of it. And so, as this moment draws to its still point, let us come back to the truth that has quietly guided us all along. That everything you have walked through was not destruction, but preparation. Life was never punishing you, it was positioning you. The weight that once felt unbearable was the pressure that shaped your depth. The silence that once felt empty was the womb of your rebirth. You were not being buried, you were being planted. Every ending was a disguise, every delay a sacred alignment, every heartbreak a door opening toward wholeness. What you called loss was really a shedding of illusions, of identities, of attachments that could not travel with you into your next season. The storm did not come to break you. It came to reveal the unbreakable within you. Now, as you stand on the edge of your becoming, breathe deeply. Feel the quiet strength that hums beneath your ribs. Feel how every scar on your heart carries the signature of wisdom. How every tear that once fell now glows with the light of understanding. You are not who you were before the pain, and that is the miracle. You have learned that peace is not found in the absence of difficulty, but in the presence of trust. You have discovered that healing is not the return to what was, but the acceptance of what now is. You have realized that love is not about possession, but about expansion. The soft, brave opening of your soul, even after the world taught you to close. This is your comeback. Not loud, not desperate, but sacred. It happens quietly, like dawn touching the horizon after a long night. It happens in the way you choose compassion over bitterness, faith over fear, purpose over pain. It happens in the way you rise, not to prove, but to live. So let this be your reminder. You are not behind, you are not broken, and you have not missed your destiny. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should. The pieces are falling into divine order, not by force, but by timing. Trust that you are being carried by something wiser than your mind and stronger than your fear. And when you no longer rush to arrive, you begin to see that you were home all along, in your breath, in your awareness, in your willingness to begin again. This is not the end. It is the sacred pause before a greater beginning. A quiet inhale before life exhales its blessings back into your open hands. So walk forward, not as the wounded one, but as the awakened, the one who understands now that every fall was grace in disguise and every silence was love preparing you to hear your own voice again. You are entering the greatest comeback of your life, not because the world will change, but because you already have. And that, my dear soul, is where all miracles begin.